Hi everybody, this is the baseball head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the baseball head 2. And hopefully you like this video. So one of the things I've been talking about on this channel has been about Pete Rose. Ever since he passed away, people are clamoring to get him into the Hall of Fame. Now Pete always said that once he died that they would get him in the Hall of Fame. Now, back earlier this year, President Trump posted something, I guess, on Truth Social, saying that since Pete is gone, Major League Baseball should put him in the Hall of Fame. But the problem with Pete is that he was on an ineligible list that he agreed to put himself on, which included people like the Black Sox, like Joe Jackson, Buck Weaver, Eddie Seacott, Lefty Williams, all those infamous guys. And right after that, a few months later, Major League Baseball put out a statement saying that Pete would be taken off the ineligible list. All players that were on that list will be taken off the ineligible list for the Hall of Fame. Ineligible list means they can't be involved in baseball. So that ineligible list, the thing about Pete Rose is very complicated. Okay? Because right after Pete was put on the suspension list, Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame put out a criteria that no player could be on an ineligible list and be eligible for the Hall of Fame. Okay? Now, Pete's been on this ineligible list since he was on there from 1989 to the last, that's 6 months ago. Or 4 months ago, whatever it was. And now, in 2 years, Pete can get into the Hall of Fame through the Veterans, what we call the Veterans Committee now, or the Errors Committee. And I don't think he'll have a problem getting in, but, because of his past, in terms of, the gambling situation, he might not get in. Still. But he served his time. So Major League Baseball took him off the ineligible list, and all these other players, they said that this was like a life. They couldn't get into the Hall of Fame for life. They'd be on this ineligible list for life. Now, over the last couple of weeks, President Trump has been playing golf with Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens has passed his eligibility. I believe he's not going to be able to get in the Hall of Fame through the writers. The writers could put him in. I am not a big fan of Roger Clemens. Because I'm a Mets fan, I don't like the way he treated Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza owned him. And instead of just taking your lumps and doing the best you can to get him out, he tried to intentionally hurt him, and it hurt him once, and tried to intentionally hurt him a second time. Do I believe that Roger Clemens was on steroids? Yes. But the facts do not remain that he did not fail a test. And there are players on that failed tests. One in particular is in the Hall of Fame, and no one ever talks about it. And David Ortiz. Now, President Trump has been on this for the last couple of days. I'm going to read you from Truth Social. And I saw this on X, because I'm not on Truth Social. But I saw this on X, and I thought, I can't be everywhere. But I saw this, and I thought that this was interesting, based on some things here. And let me read you this. I hope that Major League Baseball is getting ready to put Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame, a place where he has belonged for many years. 354 wins, second in total strikeouts, low earned run average, played in 6 World Series, 7 Cy Young Awards, a record by 3, and was, during much of his career, unhittable. I can't argue with that. Never took drugs. There is no proof that he took drugs. Has steadfastly refused that he took drugs. Frankly, I think he has a major lawsuit against baseball. If it were me, I'd sue him. Well, Trump sues everybody and wins. Put Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame now. Not like you did with Pete Rose when you waited until he was dead. Now, this is a bone of contention, because people are putting out articles saying that Trump's losing his mind. If you read further, it tells you that we know what this is about. That wasn't the deal I made. Now, here's an interesting thing. That was not the deal I made with the commissioner, Rob Manfred, many months before he died. The deal was that he was going to be put up. That means put up for and taken off the ineligible list and put up for election by the Errors Committee. Immediately. They changed that. They said he's gonna have to wait 2 years. But they waited and waited and waited, and then put him up because of death. It shouldn't have been because of death. He should have been because of talent. This is not going to happen with Roger Clemens. Now, I think we kind of know Trump. He's not going to let go of this. He's not going to let go of this because he's brought this up again. But again, a couple of things here. He made a deal with Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, saying that they would put him up, take him off the ineligible list, and make it possible that he can get voted in by the Errors Committee this year, or as quickly as possible. And he reneged it. Not only did he renege it, but then they had to take it off to where, it's like a death sentence. You don't get in during life, you can't enjoy it in life. It's interesting. Rob Manfred has a very strange reputation. Doesn't have a great reputation. I'm going to read this article because obviously the media hates Trump. And they only mentioned this one thing. And like I said, he didn't mention that that he was put in the Hall of Fame. Well, he wasn't put in. He meant to say that they would put him up for eligibility. This is from the Daily Beast, but this comes from Yahoo. Trump loses marbles with error-riddled baseball rant. President appears to be having trouble remembering who is and isn't in Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. This is not a big deal. And they put a picture of Trump that makes him look so bad. For all his fiery passion on the topic, President Donald Trump appears to be struggling to remember who is and who isn't in Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. Put Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame now, not like you did with Pete Rose when you waited until he was dead. The president posted the truth. They didn't mention the last part, that they're going to put him up for eligibility. Pete Rose, the legendary Cincinnati Reds player and Major League Baseball all-time hit leader, is not in the Hall of Fame. Major League Baseball, in fact, banned Rose for life in 1989 for betting on games, which has kept him from being inducted into, and even following his death last September. That's bullshit, the last part. This writer got this wrong. Okay? He got this wrong because he fails to mention, and I read this, believe it or not, I read the article before I started doing this video. The writer should understand that Major League Baseball lifted the ban off of Pete. They lifted the ban off of Joe Jackson. They lifted the ban off the Black Sox. Okay? This is not filed into his death. That's over with. And the writer doesn't mention this. He lies. Or he's just stupid. The president also made reference to how Rose's non-existent induction into the Hall of Fame wasn't a deal I made with the commissioner, Rob Manfred, many months before I died. Presumably writing here of Rose's death, given that Manfred is in fact alive and well. Well, stupid. We know what he meant. The deal was that he was going to be put up immediately, Trump went on. But they waited and waited and waited. This is a lie. And he's just writing this. It comes as Trump pushed for Roger Clemens, his golfing buddy, and a former Boston Red Sox pitcher widely considered one of the greatest of all time, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which has MLB has not done given long-standing allegations of Clemens' use of anabolic steroids during his pitching years. Now, I would mention, in all fairness, Major League Baseball made billions of dollars off of these players. They made billions of dollars off of Barry Bonds, millions of dollars off of Rafael Palmeiro, billions of dollars off of Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. You know? And not for nothing. They turn their backs on them when they can't play anymore. That's what it comes down to. That's the history of Major League Baseball. Clemens continues to vehemently deny the claims, as he did under oath before Congress back in 2007, before being indicted on 6 felony counts of perjury, false statements, and obstruction of the House in 2010. In 2012, he was found not guilty on every charge, though Major League Baseball remains reluctant to induct him given the controversy that continues to surround him as an athletic figure. It's the second time Trump has posted about Clemens in as many weeks. People think he took drugs, but nothing was proven. That's right. He wrote on True Social, he never tested positive, and Roger from the very beginning totally denies it. He was just as great before those erroneous charges were leveled at him. That rumor has gone on for years, and there has been no evidence whatsoever that he was a druggie. Now, again, he didn't fail a test. David Ortiz failed a test. And Ortiz bullied the media into not talking about it, to where they didn't badger him. And his background is a little rough. We know he got shot in the Dominican. There's a lot of question marks about that whole situation in the Dominican with him. Okay? Now, baseball has, again, they have this habit of sweeping things under the rug and cleaning their hands of things. Major League Baseball is just as guilty as the players. And in all fairness, there was some testing for these players when they were doing these things, supposedly. We know there were steroids in the game. We know that. Okay, that's an obvious thing. Okay, that happened late in the 80s into the 2005, 2006 season. We know that was going on. Anybody who was watching the game knew that. Your host knew that. And there was even talk about it on, I guess, in it was during one of these national broadcasts. Tim McCarver brought it up, and they quickly, during the Mets-Cardinals game, were talking about Mark McGwire, about how he found the cream or something in his locker, or powder in his locker. But again, these guys, they made billions of dollars from Major League Baseball. And in all fairness, Bonds was one of the great players of all time. He was one of the great players of his generation. He's probably the greatest player of his generation. And for 10 years, he was great. We know the physical change. He probably did stuff. We know the whole thing with Balco. We hold, all the sort of things, but he never failed the test. The same thing with Clemens. We know there was all kinds of talk about him, but he never failed the test. You got one guy in the Hall of Fame that failed the test, and he's in it. And according to Jose Canseco, there is at least 4 players in the Hall of Fame that did steroids, and he was never wrong. Never, ever wrong about players who done it, who was in on it. I'm trying to figure out who the other 3 players are. I think I have a pretty good idea who 2 of them are. One was pretty obvious. One, he played in Houston. That's a pretty obvious one. And there's one other, a legendary guy. I'm not 100% sure, but he played into his 40s, and God rest his soul. But you let me know what you think about this video. You won't get this anywhere else. I'm an independent person. I'm not associated with any other channel, any other people online. I just do my own thing. If I find something I think is interesting, I'll talk about it. And I'll mention this again about, I did this in another video, about Shohei Ohtani. John Boy Media is now working with Major League Baseball. Can they honestly assess some kind of scandal that moving forward with their partner, with their business partner? And it is interesting that Major League Baseball went in league with John Boy as a way to sort of shut up their biggest critic. Isn't that interesting? Interesting. Well, let me know what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut too, and I'll see you later.